This always reminds me of the end of boarding calls when they say, anybody else? And everyone just kind of floods in. Alrighty, so I think we'll get started in the next couple seconds. Give folks maybe 5, 4, 3, 2, and welcome, everyone. Happy New Year, first and foremost. It is a pretty brisk evening here in Peterborough, but we are so happy to have each and every single one of you for our Trent Advantage live stream series. For those who are new here, this is a series that we do every single year, right around the application deadline, and as things are starting to roll in the winter semester, to make sure you folks are up to date about any of our programs, some of our student services, and so much more. If you're joining us today, then you have stumbled upon the Trent Fleming School of Nursing live stream, and we have here an all-star panel to answer any and all of your questions as well. Joined with me is Dr. Hugo Lehman, the current Dean of the Trent Fleming School of Nursing. I'm also joined by Dr. Victoria Reed de Jong. She is the Assistant Professor here at the Trent Fleming School of Nursing. Kathleen Cook, Academic Coordinator at the Trent Fleming School of Nursing, and Dr. Sydney Gilmer, Compressed Coordinator at the Trent Fleming School of Nursing. Say that 5 times fast, my goodness. Tonight will be pretty straightforward. We have a wonderful presentation that will essentially break down what the nursing program is, but more specifically, what the nursing program is at Trent, what we do, and maybe you might pick up a few things that are similar or different than other institutions as well. Following that, we will dive right into our live Q&A. So if you haven't used Zoom before, you can take a look at the bottom of your screen there, and you can see a Q&A icon. During the presentation, during the live Q&A, or maybe if you have a question right now, make sure to put that into our Q&A, and at the end of our session, we'll be able to answer any and all of your inquiries as well. So without further ado, I'm going to hang up the mic and pass it over to Sydney and Victoria, and they'll be more than happy to kind of get us started into our beautiful presentation.
Great. Did that work, my sharing screen?
Mm-hmm. Yes, it did.
Yes, it did. Okay, good. Good.
Okay.
So I'm gonna click and change the screen, and so you folks can give me a nudge when you want me to change the slide. How's that? You picked the least technical person here.
First of all, I'd like to welcome you to the Trent Fleming School of Nursing's session on the Trent Advantage. And before we get started, I'd like to first make a land acknowledgement to acknowledge that Trent University is situated on the Mississauga Anishinaabe, and we'd like to thank the First Nations peoples for their care over our land, and that we may honor those teachings as we move forward in our session today. So welcome to the Trent Advantage. And we thought that we would get started a little bit just on the profession of nursing. And for those of you who are thinking that this might be a career path that you are interested in taking, we are biased, many of us, because we have been in this profession for a number of years. And I can speak personally, I don't think that I would choose anything else. Nursing has been extremely rewarding. As a career choice, the opportunities to practice in a variety of settings just allows for lifelong learning. It allows for transition into new environments, and it allows individuals to really be able to look at their own goals and determine what they might want to do next in their nursing career. So both Dr. Gilmer and myself are both registered nurses, and we may pepper in a little bit of our own experiences as we go through our slides today. But just to shout out for nursing, we're really dedicated as professionals. One of the nice things about nursing, and some of you may know this already, perhaps you have nurses in your family already and have talked a little bit about this to you if you've asked questions about nursing as a career, and that's that it's a regulated profession, which means that registered nurses are part of the Regulated Health Professions Act. So we belong to a college of nursing, a college of nurses. And when we're practicing in Ontario, then we practice under the College of Nurses of Ontario. And the acronym is CNO. The CNO sets out the standards for nursing practice to ensure that we are offering safe, competent nursing care to the patients and populations that we serve. But also part of being in a regulated profession means that we're also self-regulating, which is really empowering because it allows we as nurses to be able to determine what it is that we perhaps may feel like we would like a little bit more improvement on in our practice, that we reflect on our practice and say, you know what, I haven't had a lot of experience in that. I think that I'd like to know more about that. I'd like to perhaps be mentored in that area. And that we can self-regulate our own practice. And this is a really, as I mentioned, a really empowering, positive part of being a professional. With respect to Trent University, and Trent University being the #1 undergraduate university in Ontario for a number of consecutive years. And so the student experience of coming to Trent is very favorable. As I mentioned, that when statistics are collected on the student experiences, Trent seems to shine in a lot of areas. So we'll talk more about that as we move forward. With nursing, I was referring to an article that was written by Maru in 2022, and nursing is still considered one of the top professionals in Canada. So we are one of the top 3 most respected professions. And to me, this is a very honorable, an honorable place to be. It's a humbling profession that we get to care for patients and families in some of their most difficult times, rewarding times, happy times. We get to come alongside and support and be part of those intimate parts of people's lives. And we are respected and we're trusted. And this is something that I, for myself, do not take lightly. I really respect and honor that part of our profession. Nursing is diverse. It is considered both an art and a science. And if you choose to come to Trent, you will see that we incorporate different ways of knowing into our teaching and into our assignments, into our practice, so that you as a nursing student would be able to not just look at the empirics or the biomedical aspects of the profession, but also explore some of the personal ways of knowing how we can relate to patients and families by using intuition, for example, or by being creative and tapping into some of those creative elements to work alongside patients and families where maybe there's complexity, maybe it doesn't seem like there are clear paths, and we can be creative in how we approach different situations. And this is a really beautiful part of nursing, is that it has a multitude of disciplines in terms of knowledge from different disciplines that we can pull from and we can incorporate into our practice. As nurses, we have the opportunity to practice in a variety of settings. So I'm going to put Dr. Gilmer on the spot here for a second and ask, in your years of experience, Dr. Gilmer, what types of areas or settings have you practiced in?
Well, and I've got lots of experience to draw on, actually, because this is my 40th year as a nurse. I started out as a pediatric nurse, and I worked at the hospital for sick children, looked after sick babies, and then kids in orthopedics, and really thoroughly enjoyed that. And then I've also worked in the community and done public health nursing. And most folks know about public health right now because of the pandemic and COVID and all the work that public health does. Public health nurses have been the ones out there doing immunizations and doing follow-up and tracking COVID for the last number of years. I also was a labor and delivery nurse for a number of years. So when you talk, Victoria, about the intimacy of nursing and the happy times, I was involved in many, many, many deliveries over 8 years, which every single one of them was different, and every single family was different, but they were all absolutely a miracle and wonderful to be involved in. I've done maternal child care nursing. I've done outpatient nursing with ophthalmology and cancer clinic work as well. And I've done administration, where I worked at a hospital as an administrator, and have come to Trent to do teaching. Taught nursing for the last 15 years, and I'm also a researcher. So I research homelessness and have interviewed a large number of folks who live homeless to try and figure out what it is as a system that we can do to make things better. So it really is one of those areas of nursing that, or areas or professions that you think of it as being kind of pigeonholing as being a nurse, but it really is a very generalist degree that can get you going in many directions. And I think one of the key things, if you're a student that's looking to come in as a second entry or a compressed program student thinking, well, I've got my degree in X, maybe I'll consider coming in to nursing, you can put those two things together in a really unique career, whatever your previous degree was, because nursing really lends itself to interdisciplinary work and working with other folks. I think had I been a little bit, well, I guess at the right time, I probably would have liked to have been a nurse practitioner as well. And I look forward to our nursing grads right now heading out and then becoming nurse practitioners and helping to solve the issues in primary care where people don't have enough physicians and enough nurse practitioners to look after them. So lots of areas.
I love that. I love the diversity of your professional experiences, and you kind of segued nicely into that last bullet here with career advancement, that there are expanded roles for nurses now, and continue to expand as we start to look at some of the difficulties in healthcare and how nurses can come alongside and support. So you mentioned nurse practitioners. There's also clinical nurse specialists that are advanced roles. There are nurse anesthetists that are new within the last 10 years or so. So there are lots of different opportunities for career advancement. When we start to talk about our clinicals, you'll also see how international nursing is also an area for those of you who may be interested in practicing practicing in an area outside of North America. And so we have opportunities that you might be interested in should you choose Trent as your nursing school. Okay, Dr. Gilmer, we can move forward to the next screen. I know.
How fancy.
So fancy. So why choose Trent for nursing? Dr. Gilmer, do you want to start us off here?
Sure, absolutely. I think one of the things that lots of folks ask us at the open house and that incoming students are interested in is how soon they can get out into clinic practice and work and get their hands dirty, if you will, get out and practice nursing. Our clinical practice placements begin in the second term of first year, and that is very unlike most schools. Many schools have actually decreased the amount of clinical that they have in their programs and compressed it, whereas we start right in January of the first year and have students go out into practice. And then we have practice courses or practice sessions every term after that throughout the whole degree. One of the nice things is in the fourth year as well is that students have some choice in where they might like to practice. So you may have started in first year in January in long-term care, working at a nursing home, doing your clinical in a nursing home, and you may decide that that's what you really want to do. And so then when it comes to your fourth year consolidation placement, you can say, I'm really interested in long-term care. That's where I'd like to finish off my practice. So that is really quite exciting to be able to get in and get used to being with people. It's a very intimate profession. You got to get used to seeing people at their best and at their worst, and when they're very vulnerable and they need help, and you start that right away in our program.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I think that we've noticed that over COVID, that students have really valued how much placement they can get and how they can get out into the practice arenas, and I think they value that a lot, being able to get out, even probably more so than we do, because they just say, no, we really want to be out in the clinical practice. So
Yeah.
we also augment that with some opportunities in our laboratories. So we have fully stocked and fully resource laboratories where students go again, starting right off in first year and through the 3 years of the first 3 years of the program, working in lab settings, working with simulation. So we have, for example, a simulated woman who delivers a baby, and students can see how the mechanics work as babies are delivered, and can see and practice and feel the mannequin and do a delivery. We have high fidelity mannequins, and Victoria, you know more than I about this, but ones that basically sit up in bed and tell you what's wrong. And you have to listen with the stethoscope, and you have to do a bunch of assessments and figure out what's going on and how you're going to respond to the mannequin. We go small groups in our labs, so that you are there with an instructor, and you're practicing hands-on with the type of equipment and the things that you're going to be doing, in a place that's safe. And so that when you get out into the hospital, you're not, the first time you ever do something, that you're doing it on a real person. The mannequins don't move, which is nice. People tend to, when you get out there, once you've had some practice. So it's nice to get that grounding a little bit in how to do some of the skills. We also have some almost gaming, I would call it, that where you go in and it's simulated patient care, and it's like being in a video game where you get information from the patient in the video game, and then have to make a decision about what to do, and then get feedback on what you've done, again in a really safe place that causes you to learn how to critically think. And I don't know about you, Victoria, but I find that students really find that pulls the information together for them. Right? What do you learn in class, what you learn in the lab, what you learn in simulation, sort of pulls everything together, so that there's a lot of critical thinking going on there.
Absolutely. And I really like the way that you talked about that safe environment too, Dr. Gilmer, because that is what it's about. It's about learning in a safe place, being able to ask questions, being able to collaborate with not only your peers, who are practicing alongside you, but also lab demonstrators and simulationists who are sharing that space with you, and being able to have demonstrations of certain skills, or be able to ask questions when demonstrating a skill, so that way you develop that confidence in order to be able to move from a simulated environment out into the real environment. And there are, of course, differences, but the more practice that you get, the better you feel, the more confident you feel when you're engaged in working on someone who is not a mannequin, but is a real person. And that can be comforting in that way.
Sure. We also have clinical placement set. So we have students go out into hospitals, long-term care facilities, schools, social service agencies, all kinds of different placements. We'll talk about that when we get into the program to the years. And included in that is an international placement. So it's not just one environment that you're working in. It's not just the lab and one practice facility. It's an opportunity to test out different areas of nursing as well in your clinical placements. And really what you need to learn is how you want to work. You know, you might think that you want to do something with hearts, but you know, looking after people with cardiac issues, you can look after them at home, you can look after them in the hospital, you look after them in a rehab center, you could be doing research about hearts, and just getting all those different opportunities to see how nursing is played out gives you a really good grounding when you're trying to decide where to work. So that's very helpful. We have lots of different expertise in our faculty, from well, I can't even begin. We've got expertise in aging. You see on the part of the slide there, it talks about our foci, and we basically have researchers and expertise in all of those areas. We are sort of active researchers, and we have lots of our faculty who are sessional faculty who are currently working right in the heart of, for COVID, for example. So we have some of our faculty, clinical faculty and our academic faculty who have been working through COVID and can bring in some of that expertise of actually working in different areas. So that's a really, you know, we have a really nice, broad, diverse base of knowledge, I think, is what I would say about that. We do have opportunities for students who are interested in research or thesis, and basically research. I, for example, do research in homelessness. And so we have opportunities for students to do some work with that, or any of the other areas. And you can choose a thesis option in your 4th year, where you can actually really hone in on one topic and do 2 terms looking at one specific area. I've in the last year have had 2 students that were looking at homelessness research and did some of their own research, which is really kind of exciting. So those are opportunities too. I'm just watching the time a little bit too. I'm feeling like I'm talking too much. Our collaborative nursing program is your basic 4 year program. I don't know, Kathleen, do you want to talk to this slide? Do you want us to talk about the differences in year 1, 2, 3, and 4?
Sure, I can talk about some of the differences, and you guys can add things in if I don't include something important. Yeah, so as we sort of discussed, there's a lot of integration between the arts and sciences as you move through the program, and we have such an emphasis on experiential and clinical learning that every year you're going to have courses that are connected to one another, and they're building on the courses you took in the previous semester or the previous year. So in year 1, a lot of the nursing theory courses you're taking are focused on the nursing profession. So looking at different aspects of nursing. You'll also be taking things like human anatomy and physiology and psychology. So other courses that really support those foundations. And as was mentioned, you're going to do your first clinical placement in the winter, which is a long-term care placement. And that's, your first opportunity to get your feet wet and sort of see what the profession's all about. Cindy talked about that a little bit earlier on, but we do find that it is really important for students to have that early experience to start building those skills, but it's also a really good point for students to do a self-assessment and really, determine for themselves that this is a program for them. For a lot of students, it is. That's the exciting moment where they know that this was the right program for them. In year 2, we do family and communities. So the 2 placements that you do will be a community sort of public health policy type kind of clinical. It's with many different partners. So that one's not necessarily in a hospital. You could be working with a school board. You could be working in a variety of settings for that. So think about, how nursing is present in the community in so many different ways. So that's one of them. The other, the family focused practice, which is looking at maternal infant care as well as mental health. So in year 2, you're sort of continuing to build on those skills. And as we move into year 3, you're going to do acute illness and chronic disease prevention. So with those courses, those are the courses that go with them, I should say, the clinicals are hospital based. So we have some primary hospitals that we work with in our area for those. And so both of those tend to be hospital placements. And as you can see, those hours just kind of keep creeping up while you're doing those courses. You're doing pathophysiology, you're doing a ton of other courses that are going to kind of continue to support you as you grow and learn more about the profession. And in the final year, that's where you've had that opportunity to, ask your instructors about all the different things that you can do. We have 2 here tonight that have given you a long list already of the various places you can go, and you'll find there's many more as well. So in your 3rd year, we'll give you a little presentation about the 4th year, what to expect, what's coming up, because at that time, it's very independent. You go to your clinicals in years 1 through 3 in small groups. So you're with a clinical group of your peers, but when you get to year 4, you're going to be doing your independent practice placement. So that's where you're paired with an RN who's essentially becoming your mentor, and you're going to gradually learn from them and take on their course load. So very independent, and that's where, as was mentioned, you have that opportunity to let us know what area you'd like to try. And you get 2 opportunities for that. Each are 300 hours. The courses you do in 4th year are 4th year level nursing theory courses, and we have 2 groupings. So you'll take one from group 1, which are areas of learning that could be applied to anywhere in nursing you find yourself. So things like leadership, health and safety, policy. And then the second type of 4th year course would be specific areas of nursing. So you in 2nd year got a little taste of mental health, and maybe you want to continue that learning and pursue sort of a more in-depth course on mental health. So we have that. We have women's health, palliative care, tons of different areas. You can also do a thesis. So there's research opportunities at the undergraduate level, which is a really wonderful aspect of the program. Is if there's something that you have come across along the way that you just found really, really interesting, really sparked your passion, you can speak with our faculty about opportunities to really engage with that research and further your knowledge in that specific area that's something that you're passionate about. I hope that covers most of it.
I think just to add that one of the unique things about Trent is in our 2nd year community courses, one of our options for community placement is a in-depth insight placement in Honduras. And that's a community capacity building placement. So we have students who are heading out in a couple of weeks, I think, actually, the next group heading down to Honduras, where they'll stay in a, I think, it's almost a hostel. It's not much more, and we'll work with local community agencies to build capacity. Could be teaching young women about menstruation and their life changes. It could be looking at safe water, safe food preparation, any number of kinds of capacity building things. And I believe, and Hugo, you know better than I, but I think we're looking at expanding that into Guatemala within the next year as well.
Yes, there is expansion of that program and more investment in it. It's a very exciting opportunity to be able to go to those different places and spend 10 days working in those communities and seeing what nursing is about beyond our typical representation here in Ontario. Dr. Patty Tracy has been investing a tremendous amount of time in developing that program, and it's certainly a distinguishing feature of our program versus other ones in Ontario and Canada.
The other thing I would just quickly add for 4th year is when you're looking at clinical placement in 4th year, we can set up placement. Some students want to have a specific area that they want to practice in, and so they tend to stay close to Peterborough and get placements in orthopedics or some such thing. Others want to move home for the last term because they can save money, and they're thinking about maybe getting their foot in the door at a local hospital near where they live. And so they can get their clinical placement in the facility close to home. And that's sort of a leg up on that, getting ready for that first job. So there's a couple different ways that students choose.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Cindy. And also, there is potential for going out of province with the second of the two independent practice, as well as potentially internationally. There's rules and things that go with that, so it's not a blanket yes to everyone, but with some planning, it's something that's an option.
And a good
that's true.
safe country.
And
Yes.
and one of the nice features of our program is that the accompanying fourth year level courses, the 4,000 level courses, are the courses in nursing that you need to take in addition to your placement at the fourth year level are online.
Yeah.
So they can work with your schedule where you're doing your placement, and you don't need to be attached to Peterborough to complete that fourth year.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, interesting. I was a faculty advisor in the fall for fourth year students, and one of the students whom I was paired with was from the West. And so they had asked for their placement to be out West, and the placement team at Trent is fantastic and really worked with the partners in an expeditious way, I would say. Like, they were able to develop affiliation agreements and memorandums of understanding so that that student could transfer from Ontario and practice in another province where she and her partner were going to be living afterwards. And favorably, the student did really, really well in their consolidation and was offered a job on the unit that she consolidated on in order to start transitioning into that RN role with the same mentor that was her preceptor in consolidation. So it really goes to show how the uniqueness of Trent is really working for students, really trying to meet students where they are and to help them in meeting their goals personally and professionally.
I'm just going to click over to the next slide. I think it's maybe yours, Kathleen.
For a second, I thought I was muted again, but I didn't. I didn't mute. All right, so admission requirements. So at this point, many of you may have already looked into these. They're different institutions might be slightly different, but everyone's looking for those main 4 prerequisites. That's pretty common across the board. So when we're looking at applicants for the program, there's sort of 3 things we're considering. The first is your prerequisite courses. So we do require students coming in, applying to the collaborative program, to have a 4U English, 4U math, chemistry, and biology. So all at the 4U level, and we do need those to have a 75% or higher, or sorry, 70% or higher in your 4U level prerequisites. Then we're also going to look at your average. So when we calculate your average, we're going to use those 4 and the next 2 highest for U or M courses. And for that, it's a minimum of 75%. So because this is a competitive program, achieving the minimum does not guarantee admission. So admission is based on all of those prerequisites being completed, having a competitive GPA, and then the final component would be the CASPER assessment, which is an assessment that is not an academic assessment. It's designed to measure other attributes and things that we believe would be beneficial for those coming into the nursing field. So it's something that you'll book. There are links through our website so that you can get to the CASPER site, but it is done separately. It's through an external body. And for that, we consider that a pass-fail requirement. So that's sort of a separate piece to it. And then with the averages, we're typically starting at the higher averages, and then we're working our way down to that 75% cutoff. The average can vary from year to year because it's always dependent on the applicant pool we're looking at. So those coming from high school, it is that minimum 75% and those specific prerequisites. But as this slide kind of shows, there are options for those coming from a college program. So you may be in a pre-health certificate program that's approved, or you could be in a variety of other programs and applying from the college level. And for that, the prerequisites would be accepted with a minimum of 65%, but it is 2 semesters of that. So say 2 semesters of English, 2 semesters of math, that sort of thing. And then for folks who are applying to the collaborative program from a university program, Trent or otherwise, if you're applying to transfer in, we still need those prerequisites. So we're still looking for those courses, but they can be completed from the 4U level, or you can complete them at the undergraduate level in university, and we would be looking at 60% or higher. And the average, as is noted there, for post-secondary is 75% or 70%, sorry, as the minimum. So little slightly different for every applicant. You are in a pool of applicants with folks from the same academic level. So that's why those averages are a little different. There's a bit of different demands when it comes to a high school curriculum versus a university curriculum.
Great.
Just a sec.
Want me to go
Before
back?
we move on, Kathleen, I think we can answer a few questions that are in the chat box and the Q&A related to that. So when can you take the Casper test? So the last date is March. Do you remember the?
Oh, I had it up here a second ago. Just one second.
It's
They are on our website. I'll put them in the chat.
2 slides ahead. Just a second. It's two
okay,
slides
then
ahead.
Oh, perfect. Oh, good. I was like, I had them.
I think. I thought it was here.
There's a question about the quartile needed for admission. It's not a need in terms, it contributes to your application. So there's not a specific quartile that's needed for the admissions. And then deadline about application.
There, March 2nd. Sorry.
That's a final. Yep.
That's the final one. There's another one in February. And the competitive average for this year was just around 80%, I believe. For entrance, for those applying from high school. Okay, sorry.
Now I guess I have to do something technological here. Oops. It only wants to go one way. It doesn't like to go back. Okay, so just let me jump in here.
Perfect.
Did that work? Yes. So as Kathleen's alluded to, we have what we call a compressed nursing program. So that would be for folks that have some of the basic requirements maybe gained through a college program of some sort or a pre-health, or we have lots of folks who come in who have a degree in something else, something quite often that's similar. So we get lots of students, for example, with kinesiology who decide that the best part of kinesiology was working with people and that they want to work with people at a more in-depth level. And so they can come into the compressed program. Instead of being 4 years, the compressed program is 28 months. And it's a start to finish without a break kind of program. So you walk your way through each of the terms, including summer terms. And it's a push towards being graduated sooner and being ready to write the RN exams. So in year one, it's the same courses in both programs, they just land differently in your schedule. It's the same in year one, that sort of the first year level courses are about nursing and the profession. Some of the folks coming in have already, for example, had anatomy and physiology and some of the other courses. So the course plan is a little bit different depending on what transfer credits you come in with. Again, in second year, our nursing courses are the same community, but in second year, you move into that acute illness and chronic disease courses. And again, in the first summer you do that, and then in the fall of year two, you finish that off. So it's just a little bit out of sync with the collaborative program, but the same content that you would get. I sort of look at it, and Kathleen, I may be wrong, but I kind of look at it like what you've taken previously takes off all the electives that are in the program, and you're really focusing just on nursing.
Pretty much.
Pretty much?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Sometimes it's a little, there might be one or two you got to pick up. We have a collection of what we call the forced choice electives. So it's like one of 5 courses. So sometimes students don't have that one, or they might be missing a psychology or something, but they have a third year elective. So we do provide our students with program maps that are literal checklists so that we can kind of go through and check off all those transfer credits that come in. But yeah, by having those courses already completed, it allows us to sort of condense the content. And then, as you said, going through the summer, that accelerates as well.
Mm-hmm. And we also have you as our academic coordinator who can help when people are scratching their head saying, I'm not quite sure where I am. What do I need to take next? Kathleen is assigned to our school and walks all kinds of students through getting through the program. So you're not sort of hanging out there alone. And the compressed program is nice. The graduates finish at Christmas. They write their NCLEX as soon as they want, within the first month, I would say anyway, after in the January, and can get out into the working world fairly quickly then with the same basic level of the nursing education. As I mentioned earlier, quite often put it together with a degree in something else and have a unique career trajectory after that. Victoria, is there anything you wanted to say or add to this slide?
I think that something to note here, because we haven't allocated each of the courses in the semesters, but it was alluded to that the complement of the theoretical courses we try to tie into the practice. So, for example, in third year, I teach the acute illness course, the theory course, but I also am the lead for the acute practice course. And so we really try to bridge the theory and the practice together. And that's sometimes some of the critiques is that there's all this theory, but when do I actually get to use it in practice? And so one of the nice parts about the Trent program, the Trent nursing program, is that you're using it as you're studying. And so therefore, it's not just kind of floating out there. You're actually, it's interesting because I'll have students who will approach me after lecture sometimes and say, oh my gosh, Victoria, last week we were talking about pneumothorax and chest tubes, and this week in clinical, I actually cared for somebody with a chest tube. And so these are some of the advantages, is that you're in a practicum where you're applying that theory, and it makes it come alive. Something else to note is the evaluation methods in our nursing program that we recognize as learners and as knowers, that we learn and we know in diverse ways. And so, for example, our evaluation methods may have a variety of ways of learning. So, for example, in some of the courses, you may have exams that are multiple choice. You may have some exams that are multiple choice and some written. You may have some exams that are multiple choice, written, true and false, matching, some psychomotor aspects. You may have papers where you are working through case studies and trying to problem solve what's actually happening here, putting pieces of a puzzle together in order to make decisions, priority decisions. So there's a variety of teaching strategies and there's a variety of evaluation strategies, with hopes that we will meet learners where they are. And although you may not have everything, like, oh, you know what, I don't do very well in multiple choice tests. Okay, well, let's see how we can improve that skill, but know that there's going to be other evaluations that are not just focused on multiple choice. And that somewhere in the courses, you will hopefully, and I would say with confidence, you will find something that meets you, that you get to shine. And so I think that that's a really important feature of our program.
The other thing I would say too is for folks that have the desire to go further in postgraduate work, our undergraduate program prepares you well for that. We have a couple of research courses that students take. There's the option for the undergraduate thesis that then can prepare you to roll into a master's program. Actually, my undergraduate thesis project with one of my students this last fall was basically getting ready for a master's research study, getting all the pieces ready, practice going through their research ethics board, how they were going to select their subjects and all the things ready now that when he goes to apply for a master's program, he's really got a good sense in his mind of what he wants to do. And I think that's a leg up as well. And that's one of the things I think we do well in our undergraduate program. Oops.
I'll let you finish this, and I just want to make a comment after the compressed section's done.
Kathleen, did you cover this fairly well?
Pretty
already?
much. The only kind of noted difference in terms of our collaborative and compressed are what we were just talking about, those electives, right? So students coming into the compressed do have to have at least four full credits that specifically apply to these ones listed here. So we're looking for at least 2 full undergraduate credits at the first year level, 1 full credit at the second year level, and a full credit of introductory psychology. So typically we're seeing students apply after at least 2 years of an undergraduate program. We do have an option for Trent students that's outlined where they can take a couple other courses and sort of switcheroo the 2000 level with human anatomy and human physiology. So it is possible to transfer into the compressed after just 1 year of undergraduate studies. But we see students coming from, first year, second year, full degree, everything in between. So for this, same prerequisites we're looking for English, math, chemistry, biology. They can be completed at the 4U level or in your undergraduate. And for the GPA, we're looking at the last 10 full credit equivalents, which is 2 years of undergraduate study. So again, there is room for students who have less than that to apply and be successful, depending on their average and having all those prerequisites. But for students who say have completed a full degree, just know we're only going to use the last 10 full credits. So starting at the most recent, and then they count back until they have 10 full credits, roughly 2 years of full-time study. So that's what they're going to use to base your average on. And 70% is the minimum for undergraduate students. Same process as collaborative, in that we'll start at the higher averages, work our way down. The Casper is required as well.
Okay. I think the next 2 slides were Casper. I don't know that there's anything else that we need to say too much about it.
Before we continue, I think Hugo had a
Oh,
Yeah,
Hugo, yeah.
I just want to make I was answering some questions, so I don't know if it was touched on, but we have the collaborative program is a 4-year program where students go fall, winter, and summers off. The collaborative programs are those coming in with university experience, and it's a 28-month program, and they run every term, including the summer. Those that are coming from high school in the collaborative program, it's fairly recent now, but you have an opportunity to accelerate and finish the entire degree in 3 years. So if you decide to take a load in the summer courses, any student coming out of high school into our program can actually finish the degree in 36 months. Okay, so not every university or not every program in Ontario offers that possibility. And again, it's a distinguishing feature for us. Thanks.
You have to balance that out, I guess, with how much do I want to enjoy going through? Because the experience,
absolutely,
the experience of university is so wonderful. It's such a life-altering kind of thing. So to enjoy every minute.
You know, I was just thinking as you were talking about collaborative and compressed that something that we haven't mentioned yet that perhaps Kathleen, you may want to elaborate on are RPNs who bridge to become RNs, and that we do have a cohort of registered practical nurses who have made a decision to return to school to become a registered nurse. And so there are pathways for registered practical nurses who wish to do that as well. So if there's anything that, if you have any questions about that, please feel free to ask in the chat or the Q&A session rather, or perhaps Kathleen, you have additional information you'd like to share.
Yeah, certainly. So we do have a specific bridging program that we offer with George Brown College. So it is offered out of the George Brown College campus, excuse me, the waterfront campus of Toronto. So it's a pretty unique opportunity for those who are looking to bridge. And essentially you do a 1-year bridge certificate program that prepares you for a BSCN with Trent. And the whole thing takes place at the George Brown campus. But the bridge portion, along with your RPN, grants you 9 full credits towards the Bachelor's of Science in Nursing, which is a 20 credit program. So it's almost half of the courses required based on your RPN and that 1 year bridge. So it's a really great opportunity for those who are looking to enhance their careers and go with that next step in the BSCN. We also have an articulation agreement currently with Fleming College in Peterborough. So RPNs from Fleming College who are registered in good standing and have completed the program within 3 years are able to apply to the compressed program, and they get 5 full credits as transfer credits. So there's a bit more information on the website, and certainly you can reach out to myself or to nursing admissions if you have some specific questions about how that works and what that does. But it's a great opportunity. It's acknowledging all of the hard work that you've put into your RPN practice. There are some stipulations about timelines because of credits and practicums and how all of that needs to be overseen and things like that. But there are a lot of really great opportunities, and I know there have been some really great funding opportunities for RPNs lately who are going back to do their BSCN as well. So it's been a good time for folks to make that change.
Right. I think, I don't know whether you wanted to talk about this a little bit too, Kathleen, just because that
Sure.
sometimes comes up in questions.
Yeah, definitely. So as we've thrown out there a couple times, it is a competitive program across the province. I assume across Canada. It's for all the reasons that Victoria and Cindy have mentioned, it's a really wonderful profession to be a part of, but that does mean we have a lot of applicants and we only have so many spaces. The downside of that is that not all applicants will be successful. But for those who are, quite serious about nursing and are really passionate about it, and also really like Trent, if you found that Trent is the right fit for you, but you were not successful in your nursing application, you'll automatically be assessed for what we call an alternate offer. So you may still be a very strong candidate for undergraduate studies, but just not in the competitive pool of applicants. So we would send you that offer so that you could start your studies in the fall with Trent, and you'll be given a sort of guide to the types of courses that you may want to take. So within the collaborative program, for example, our first year nursing students will take introductory psychology, usually over their first and second year in the program. They'll also take human anatomy and physiology, and they take those 2 full credits of first year electives over 2 years. So those are all courses that any student can take in their first year that would be applicable to the nursing program. So they're still being used if they do transfer into the BSCN. And it's a great opportunity for you to kind of get started on your undergraduate studies and also see what's out there, So with those elective credits you choose, you can choose your own adventure. Every program at Trent has an introductory level course, so you can explore some different areas in the sciences if that's your strength, or maybe more the arts. Intro to social work, I've talked to some students who are passionate about that because what they're drawn to in nursing is helping people. So they kind of look to some of those other helping professions and seeing what else is out there. So it's an opportunity to start your studies as what we call an undeclared student. It just means you haven't declared your major yet. You get to choose those courses, you get to take those courses, and then you can either choose to transfer into nursing or one of our other professional programs for your second year, or you could declare your major in something else. Maybe you took a history class and were sold, and that's what you decided to do. So it's just for students to know that that you would still have the opportunity to apply internally to transfer into the program. You apply during your first year for your second year. And again, if Trent is that place for you and you're really excited to start your journey, just know that we automatically do that assessment. So you don't need to apply separately to another program. You will be automatically assessed for an alternate offer. And then our admissions folks are super helpful. You can always meet with any of our advisors. We do sessions during the year as well, so that you get a lot of information and support if you are still very much passionate about nursing.
Yeah, it is a journey, it's not just the destination, right? And I know back in well, I won't tell you how long ago I graduated, but I actually did my first year in science and then applied to get into nursing after that. And I wasn't sure I wanted to be a nurse, and I was ready to go off to school and just try something new. And then I thought, oh yeah, no, this is what I want to do. So even 40 years ago, we did that kind of thing. So that's great. Yeah, this is the deadlines for the applications. We're already in January, so you're looking at applying to do the Casper test somewhere in this next month, and then we will be sending out offers of admission start mid to late March, and they take a while to roll out, so not to panic necessarily. They do take a while to roll out. So between March and May, you can be looking for that offer of admission coming through if you're going to be successful. I don't know whether you want to say anything else about this slide or whether we should jump to the last few minutes for some questions. Hugo, you're monitoring that.
Sure. How about we go for questions?
Yeah, because we don't have too many minutes left.
No.
There. Final slide.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Wow, this is why I love doing nursing sessions, because you folks kind of run this yourself. It's a like amazing little to and fro. The banter is always there. Absolutely wonderful.
We're not pushy or anything though, Jonathan.
No, of course not. Of course not. But no, thank you so much, everybody here. There's also been questions being answered in the back end as well. So we really do appreciate that. I do have one question here that's kind of been sitting here for a little bit, and it kind of wraps into a couple more questions that we've been seeing in the chat. We're talking about the nursing pathway, and it's great, but like we've talked about before, what if you don't get into the nursing program? You get an honors science degree. Amazing. Now I can apply after my first year or even my fall semester, but what does that year look like for students? What are they even doing? Can they take any course?
And yeah, I think Kathleen can answer that one probably.
Yeah. So there's a couple ways to look at it. Our nursing enrollment advisor, Zachary, who is not here this evening, but he's someone that a lot of students you would most likely talk to if you were in that situation where you got honor science and just wanted to know sort of what that looks like. Because for each student, it could be different. If you're someone who's already completed some undergraduate studies, for example, you might already come in with introductory psychology or human anatomy and physiology. So you might not be looking at completing those courses per se. You might want to look at leaning into your interests to increase your GPA. So that might be something that you're challenged to do. For a student coming right from high school, as I mentioned, there are a couple of those courses that are overlap, and you'll be sent the link to a website that has all of that information. So again, no, we're not leaving you hanging. The courses that we recommend are the Intro Psych 1 and 2 and Human Anatomy and Human Physiology. So that's 4 courses or 2 full credits that nursing students have to take over the first 2 years of the program. So that would give you that foundation that is going to be applicable to the program. Nursing students also take electives. So their electives are spread out over the full 4 years. So our first year students take first year electives in both first and second year. They essentially get one choice per semester. So by completing them up front, those courses are still applicable. It means you can then either have a lighter course load at certain points in the program after you meet with me to develop a program plan, or for some students, they might decide after that first year that they want to apply to the compressed program. So if you take those specific courses, the anatomy, physiology, intro, psychs, and 2 other electives, it fits in to allow students to do the accelerated program. So that's not for everyone, as we've discussed. There's merits to both. It depends on how quickly you actually want to move through the program, because our compressed students will tell you, like, it's quick, that pace and no break. It's not for everyone. You might decide you would rather just do the collaborative and have some lighter course load kind of points throughout, and I would help you build that schedule. But again, if you take the certain pathway, you may be eligible for the compressed. But I will still caution, it is still competitive. So a lot of the times, back in my admission days, I would recommend that students lean into their interests, because at that point, as long as you've met the prerequisite requirements at the 4U level, so you have all of those courses listed and their minimums, those have been met. So at that point, you're looking at your average, and the best way to excel and be invested in courses is to choose courses that genuinely interest you. So so as I mentioned, you know, every discipline that you see listed in the view book at Trent has an introductory level course. So you take a look at all of those, you take a look at all of the descriptions in the calendar, and it's the like best part is like choosing all the courses that you can take, because it's not just the subjects you got to take in high school, it's a lot of other things. So you can challenge yourself and choose something that that you've just never had exposure to, or you can choose to lean on those areas that you know you like. Maybe you just know you do well in English, so you're going to take an English course because that'll be enjoyable. It is a competitive program to get into, so that average is important. So you will need to apply yourself during that year. You'll want to take advantage of all of the advising and academic skills and all of the supports that Trent offers. And then if you are admitted to the program, those courses still count towards the electives to the nursing program. I hope that helps.
Yes, absolutely. Now, because folks are so interested in numbers as well, that's one thing I've noticed on the road. Everybody wants the hard-hitting numbers. How does the compressed differ from that collaborative? Are there fewer seats? Is that why we're seeing such a competition?
That's a good question, Jonathan. No, we have 120 seats for the collaborative program, and we currently have 140 for the compressed. So the government has increased the number of seats in the various programs, and they push for the Trent increased the number of seats in the compressed to 140.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you so much. I am being wary of time. So I will have to wrap this session up as well. Before we leave though, general nursing questions, questions about placement, questions about maybe getting a placement closer to home, what to bring, what kind of stethoscope you need to buy. How do we stay connected with you folks?
Yeah, that's a great question. The nursing office at Trent is a great place to start. And then based on your question, it can be forwarded to a course coordinator, to a course lead, to a particular faculty member that will be able to give more of an explanation that that merits the question that's being asked. So I would start with the nursing office. And is there a website that can be posted in the chat for the nursing office?
Yeah,
I think Jillian got it. Yeah.
There you go, our wizard behind the screen. She's also posted the general email for the nursing program, so nursing@trentu.ca. Right, nothing is too big or too small. We'll be more than happy to forward it off to the appropriate individual to make sure your question is answered. And then nursing admissions at trentu.ca as well. I work both in the recruitment and admissions department, and I still get confused about admission statuses and what you need to send in. So there's absolutely no shame in emailing us to make sure that your T's are crossed and your I's are dotted so that you can continue and start that next chapter on the right foot. But with that being said, I am going to wrap up our session this evening. I mean, I don't even know what to say to exit this. I've had a pretty bad injury stint the last couple of years. And I can confidently say that if it wasn't for the nurses that we have in a variety of different sectors, our world quite literally would not be able to revolve. And I can also say this confidently that we wouldn't be where we are without Trent nurses, because for the last 2 visits that I've had, it's been the same Trent nurse that took care of me. So there's always that. On behalf of myself, I want to thank our panel of amazing experts, Kathleen, Victoria, Cindy, and Hugo. Thank you so much for being here, sharing your insights and your knowledge, and answering all of those questions as well. I also want to thank the folks working behind the scenes, making all of this presentable to you. The third group that I want to thank, which is the audience, for staying up with us, for asking all of your questions, getting curious and excited about the world of nursing, and making sure that future you is well taken care of. So with that being said, it is time to close the session. Have a wonderful week. Have a wonderful new year. Make sure to stay warm, call a loved one, and have a wonderful evening.
Bye, Jonathan.
Thank you, John.
Bye, thank you.
I am.